Welcome to Burns Hustles, where we turn side hustle ideas into cash. Have you ever wondered how to make money with Airbnb rental arbitrage? It's a question that tickles the entrepreneurial spirit in many. Let's start by understanding what Airbnb rental arbitrage is. Imagine renting a property long-term and then subletting it on Airbnb for short-term stays. Yes, you're right, it's a business strategy. Now, like any business strategy, it has its own set of risks and rewards. On one hand, you have the potential to generate a higher income than traditional renting. On the other, you're dealing with the unpredictability of short-term rentals and the responsibility of managing multiple properties. Think of it as a high-stakes game of Monopoly, where the board is the real estate market and the dice is the demand for short-term rentals. It's a thrilling venture, but not without its challenges. So stay tuned to learn how you can leverage Airbnb rental arbitrage to generate income. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It just takes a second and it really helps us to make great videos. Now, you might be wondering, how does Airbnb rental arbitrage work? Well, let's break it down into bite-sized chunks. First and foremost, you need to find a suitable rental property. This might sound simple, but it's crucial to choose the right property in the right location. You're looking for something that's not just a great place to live, but also a desirable destination for potential Airbnb guests. Think about proximity to tourist attractions, public transport, and local amenities. Once you've found the perfect place, the next step is negotiating with the landlord. Remember, you're not just renting, you're planning to sublet. This needs to be clearly communicated and agreed upon with the property owner. You'll need to make sure you have a solid lease agreement that allows you to sublet and that you're both on the same page about how things will work. Next, it's time to set up the property for short-term rentals. This involves furnishing and decorating the property to make it appealing and comfortable for your guests. It's not just about aesthetics, though. You'll also need to ensure that the property has all the necessary amenities and safety features. Once the property is ready, you can list it on Airbnb. This involves creating an engaging listing with high-quality photos and a compelling description. Pricing is also a key factor to consider. You'll need to strike a balance between making a profit and offering a competitive rate to attract guests. Finally, you'll need to manage the bookings. This includes responding to inquiries, processing reservations, handling check-ins and check-outs, and dealing with any issues that arise during a guest's stay. It's a lot of work, but it's also where the potential for profit lies. Kevin Burns has automated it by having a staff and everything at a touch of a button. You can set this up too, and Kevin has talked about how to do this in other videos on Burns Hustles. Throughout this process, it's essential to comply with local regulations and obtain the necessary permissions. This may include acquiring a business license, paying local taxes, and adhering to any local laws related to short-term rentals. That's the basic process, but there's more to it, so stick around. You might be surprised at just how much potential there is in Airbnb rental arbitrage. But as with any business venture, it's important to be aware of both the opportunities and the challenges. So what are the benefits of Airbnb rental arbitrage? Well, for starters, it's an opportunity that requires a relatively low initial investment. You're not buying property. You're merely leasing it and then subleasing it to guests. This setup reduces the financial barrier to entry and makes it a feasible option for many. The flexibility it offers is another significant advantage. You're not tied down to a property or a location. If a particular market isn't working for you, you can always switch to a different one. Now, let's talk about the potential for high profit margins. If you're savvy about selecting the right properties in high-demand areas and managing them efficiently, the difference between your rental costs and what you earn from Airbnb can be substantial. And finally, there's the scope for scalability. Once you've nailed the process, you can replicate it with multiple properties, expanding your business and boosting your income. Sounds promising, right? But let's not ignore the other side of the coin. As with any business model, Airbnb rental arbitrage has its pitfalls. One of the main challenges is the instability of the short-term rental market. You see, The profit margins can be attractive, but they're also subject to seasonal fluctuations and changes in demand. For example, during the holiday season, your properties might be booked solid, but during the off-season, you could face weeks or even months of vacancies. Then there's the issue of property damage and maintenance. Unlike long-term rentals, where tenants are usually responsible for minor repairs, with Airbnb, you're the one who has to deal with everything from a broken coffee machine to a leaky faucet. Not to mention the costs of cleaning and preparing the property for the next guest. Another potential pitfall is dealing with unhappy landlords or neighbors. While you may have the best of intentions, not everyone appreciates the constant turnover of guests in their building or neighborhood. This could lead to strained relationships or even legal disputes. Speaking of legal issues, it's crucial to understand that different cities have different rules when it comes to short-term rentals. Some places may require special permits or licenses, and some might not allow it at all. Failing to comply with local laws could result in hefty fines or even the closure of your business. It's essential to weigh these potential pitfalls against the benefits before diving in. Now that we've covered the basics of Airbnb rental arbitrage, let's recap. You've learned about this intriguing business model where you rent a property and then sublet it on Airbnb. The difference in rental income and the original lease amount becomes your profit. Sounds simple, right? But remember, the devil is always in the details. The process involves finding a suitable property, negotiating a lease with the landlord, setting up the space for guests, listing it on Airbnb, and managing the bookings. Potential benefits are aplenty. You have the possibility of higher returns compared to traditional renting, flexibility of location, and the chance to run a business without owning a property. However, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are pitfalls. The business model relies heavily on tourism and travel trends. Any disruption to these, like we saw during the global pandemic, can spell trouble. There's also the risk of regulatory changes affecting short-term rentals and the reality of dealing with difficult guests. Remember, thorough research and professional advice are your best friends here. Understand the local rental laws, study the market trends, and calculate the numbers before you dive in. Airbnb rental arbitrage can be a lucrative business model, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It requires time, effort, and smart decision-making. So, are you ready to give it a try?